All right, welcome to another episode of the Vets and Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Will Curtis, and I'm here with another veteran who has made the transition from an interesting side of the military into the mortgage world. Danny, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being a part of it.
No, I appreciate the invite. This is pretty cool.
Yeah, so tell us, what did you do while you were in the service?
So I was in for 27 years. I was enlisted through E6 in 2nd Ranger Battalion as 11 Bravo, and then went to OCS, Officer Candidate School, got aviation, and then went to flight school. Literally went to OCS in July 2001. Hugest kick in the junk possible is at the end of OCS, literally September 11th happens. I'm an aviation officer with no wings and then essentially non-deployable. And I watched the beginning of the war go off. So there, flight school during all of the initial kickoff, and then put a packet in flight school whenever I was then. Went and assessed for the 160th, got picked up, and then spent all of my lieutenant through major time. And then I was going to retire in 2016. But instead of retiring, I reverted. I became a warrant officer, and I did another 7.5 years in the 160th. I retired as a W3.
So
Yeah,
that's
I know. Non-standard.
that's definitely a non-standard. I've only known one other officer who reverted. I think she was a captain getting ready to make major, and she's like, I don't want to fly a desk. I want to fly more often. So she went back as a warrant.
Yep.
Which, I mean, I guess if you just want to fly and that's all you want to do, I guess that's the best choice.
I was free candy and I was at retirement anyway. So I kind of forced the command because they're like, well, we should send you off as a warrant somewhere for a year, then you can come back and assess. I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm like, I'm free candy. I'm qualified in all these aircraft already. Like, and you need pilots. I'm like, I'm like USR +1 in 10 hours. Like, you have a free pilot. So let's do this. And
Yeah,
what they did.
What I imagine
And
that long or that far in, you were either, an IP or instructor pilot or some maintenance test pilot, somebody specialized,
mhm.
had some additional skills in there as well, which again takes a whole lot more to get in. And I can imagine, with being a night stalker, that's got to be even more difficult to get through those progressions, just given the precision of what that unit does and goes through.
It was I will tell you, especially at the beginning of part of the war, the learning curve, because like in my green platoon class, which is what you do after you come and you
Mhm.
assess, you go in and they got to teach you how to fly all the stuff and all the environments and whatnot. But I was still trying to figure out like how to talk on the radio, like instrument stuff, and I mean, I'm telling you, the learning curve was near vertical. And I would say like I lived the entire first part of my Night Stalker career hanging off of the back of the Chinook, because I'm hanging on for dear life because it was really difficult. I mean, we would go from doing contact where I'm like just trying to stay in the traffic pattern, and next thing you know, you're doing aerial refueling off of a C-130. Like it's crazy, You're like flying inside of the wing. So it was a lot. But honestly, what I did during my entire career, because I was enlisted, so I wasn't a traditional timeline guy. I said yes to everything. So like, hey, do you want to go? I'm like, yeah, I'll go do that. So I ended up getting qualified in all the aircraft. I was an MTP in the 47 and the 60. And then, yeah. And then whenever I was reverting, because I predominantly flew 47s and the 160th, uh, I asked to go back to revert. And so I didn't have to leave the unit and I wanted to go be a 60 guy. And because I was already qualified in the entire software system and whatever else, and I was already qualified in the Blackhawk, so it was easy. And they let it happen. And then as soon as I got completely signed off and ready to go, they're like, God, we really need Chinook guys. Like, Danny, will you go back to Chinooks? I'm like, seriously? Like, I just threw all my shit away. Do you know what I mean? Like, but I did, and I went back to Chinooks and finished out the rest of my career.
Mm. It's it's interesting because that world you go in, and as we've done more and more of these interviews, one of the things that's been absolutely fascinating is not anything I would have thought is those high producers we found in real estate. Recruiters make perfect sense. You go into sales, right? Um, MPs, oddly enough, or military police officers, have seen a large number of those, and I've got some theories on why. But the other side of what we've seen as we've done enough of these interviews is that officers and those in the special operations world are obviously excelling in those sides of things as well. Special operations makes sense because you guys are cut a little different than anybody. You're that success translating elsewhere, not surprising. But the one thing I thought was interesting was that officers, as they transition, I wouldn't have thought that would have been the case coming into real estate, but yet every officer that I've talked to in our conversations come into it very differently, very tactically, very just deliberate in what they do. Where I think, my folks, the enlisted folks, we're just kind of going out there trying to figure it out and kind of go through the motions. Where I think a lot of times the officers, at least what I've noticed, is that they're coming in very deliberate. And maybe that's just the story they tell, or there really is something to it, just coming from that cut of military service.
No, I will tell you that when I when I first got into the business, and we briefly talked about this before we turned the camera on, is you're like, how in the hell do you turn into a mortgage guy, right? Like you're
Yeah.
160th pilot, like, and then you become like honestly, I traveled a ton. I have a gazillion trips overseas. I was tired of living out of a bag. Industry will pay you 100, 100 and a half, put you on the road 6 months out of the year because you're used to, answering your phone and leaving your family within a few hours, right? Um, I did not want to do that. So I thought about being a real estate agent, but I mean, I'll be blunt. I didn't want to show houses at night or on the weekends because that's free time, right?
Yeah.
And I had already sacrificed so much, and it was kind of like trying to play catch up a little bit. So the mortgage business kept coming up. I'm like, what's a mortgage loan originator? I never heard of that. Like that's how you got your house. So asked some questions. There's a guy I used to work with that he was doing it, and I was going through a medical retirement. I ended up medically retiring at 27 years. And while I was going through the evaluations and all that stuff, I got my license, started to learn the business. Um, because, honestly, it's just mission planning. Here you are. Here's where you want to go. What route do you want to take? What obstacles are in the way? And how quickly do you want to get there? And so for my brain, which is hyperactive, it won't stop. I loved it. But where it really, I think, started to change for me is and talking to the tactics and stuff, I realized that trying to find your business from realtors was an absolute waste of effort. Because, well, think of this, like whenever guys are joining my team now, I'm like, check it out. If I just graduated medical school and I'm going to be a back surgeon, whew, I am ready. And you need a back surgery. You going to let me cut your back? No.
Probably not.
Right? So realtors, I looked at it the same way. I'm like, if you can't look me up and see a whole book of business and you can't Google me or whatever, like your confidence in using me, like everybody tells them they got great rates and get great service and they answer their phones. Good job. You did your job. Like there's literally nothing above that. Right. Um, but what I realized is that because I had retirement and disability, like, or that was coming, this kind of evolved through me getting my ass kicked, for like my first 12, 18 months working way too much with not okay results, but my brain is constantly wanting to like analyze and, check efficiencies and where this is wasted and, redefine a process. And ended up on a team in another company with a guy named Jeff Fitzer, and he taught social media. And he's really good at it. And honestly, like, do you think I had a social media profile and like working? No, I did not. I probably had one. I didn't do shit with it. And I would just, and I had to sit in these like mandatory classes like every week with him because I was on his team and I was just sit there all poopy pants, looking at him. And, he talked me into just starting to post. He's like, just start posting. And so I did. And I mean, and I didn't delete any of them. So you want to see some social media stuff? You go on my Instagram and you scroll all the way down. You like, oh look, he was super struggling right here with separating and transitioning and all this because he looks like, like, and but I just kept doing it, and I will tell you, my business almost 4x'd almost immediately, and then quickly transitioned and realized, hey, if I niche VA loans, I can just be me, right? Because look, we're rough, like we're a little rough around the edges.
Sure.
I don't want to play patty cake. I don't have a filter, and I don't really care to have a filter at this age, like bluntly, right? But but by me being me, I'm not doing sales. I'm just trying to take care of you, give you all the answers to the test. If we end up working together or not, as long as you walk away helped, that's all I care about. Obviously, I want to work with you. This is a business, right? But if you find a better deal and it's substantially and, like, and they're answering your phone, and good on you. I'm going to say, look, go ahead. Right. So tactically, I think what happens is now I look at something and it's trying to maximize the effect of every action and decision. Um, like I have a veteran nonprofit. This isn't tactical for business. This is because I found horses at the same time as I found the mortgage industry. And I ended up starting an equine therapy PTSD program. And now I own a horse farm, which is where I'm at now. And the horses are outside, and in a couple hours I got to go out and feed their asses. And it's 147,000 degrees outside. You do it twice a day. They forget to tell you, like, there's no starter kit for buying a horse farm. I'll tell you this. You got to buy a whole bunch of stuff. But man, I will tell you, I have kind of figured it out, and I'm trying to replicate. I'm like, hell, I gave one of my buddies, he was actually one of my clients. We talked, reconnected. He got his license, and in just over a year and a half, he's a $30 million guy.
Wow.
Like, that's proof of concept. Do you know what I mean? Like, in my third year in the business, I did 37 point whatever million, and I'm in the top 1% of VA loan officers. Now, is it because I have I have compulsion issues, and I won't let go like a sick dog that won't let go of the toy? Right? Yes, that is totally me. I think some of those oddities, that is, and I won't quit. I will not quit. You know what? I quit being young. That's the only thing I've quit because I can't stop it. But I think that trade is the part that is the one that causes so many problems for people if they don't end up in the right job market, whatever because I don't know how your transition was, but like the fear of losing complete and total purpose, and then the first reality of actually being alone. Nobody's gonna like call you today. Like, nobody's checking in on you. You don't have to report to anybody. You could be a total turd for 3 days and not get out of bed. Nobody's gonna care. Like, that right there, that realization is shocking. And, for me, like, if I'm doing it, like, and this is like one of the things that I try to teach too, is like, just don't be a transactional piece of shit. All right. If I'm talking to Will on the phone, like, I'm asking questions, but I'm asking real questions. Like, hey, man, how's your transition going? What are you doing for yourself right now? Because I think it's so easy for people to just go 197% into work because that's all they know. Right. Like, you just go, go, go. And we were going all the time. It was always some version of either overseas or back in CONUS somewhere in some other state, training in an environment or whatever, or getting ready for something. And then you're back overseas again. So you were never settled. So it was always like constant bags and rotation of laundry and whatnot. Um, but then where it's, for industry, hey, you want to headhunt these people because they will kill it. Right. But they'll also ride this crazy emotional roller coaster. So that's exactly how my horse farm got started. So there you go. Long-winded answer.
No, and I think what you're hitting on, and it's funny because this is what comes up almost every single episode is that you're used to go, 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 and all of a sudden you become a civilian, nobody's checking on you, you're by yourself. and the only thing you have to do is either you pile your way through school because you went back to school, or you pile yourself all the way into work. And rather than having purpose, you just stay busy. A- And quickly you realize you're busy for no reason other than just being busy because you're bored or because you're not used to being at that tempo. And then, we see guys or gals that'll take that into booze or drugs or those kind of things
But
and
yeah.
struggle that direction. And, maybe I'll say I'm lucky that I used work and building a business as that coping mechanism where it could have gone very differently, but it still wasn't a purpose. And it sounds like for you, it was kind of where you found the equine therapy and that portion where you could change your service from the guy or the gal to the left and right of you into something different. And then I'm assuming your business took off once you kind of found that ability to serve again.
Well, it did, obviously, like a big part of, I think, the kind of the trajectory of mine, which is totally not standard, right? I get that. But, here's the cheat code. Like, somebody that was in for 27 years, I know a bazillion people, right? Think how many people I know that are scattered all over the United States. And doing social media, I get in front of those people. And then they realize, like, oh, Danny does that. Like, hey, hey, let's just link. I think I had 3 today, right? I didn't even post anything today. But traditionally, when I post, I get 1 to 3 people. Like, that's standard. It doesn't mean that I'm getting 3 transactions. It's 3 conversations. But as well as I do in this business, it's filling a pipeline so that it's just constantly coming through, right? Now, my roles changed a bit, but uh the other aspect is that for, my business now my business is literally another extension of veteran care because my whole team is retired and disabled veterans. Like, as I'm growing this out, I'm literally recruiting me. And the roller coaster that I did, I can alleviate that for somebody. Do you know what I mean? Like, hey, check it out, dude. First of all, industry is not going to give a shit. They don't care about you. Like, it's great. You have some buddies there and you might be happy. But if you still want to serve and coach, teach, mentor, and and I love that. I'm like, hey, well, did you like to lead soldiers and like square dudes away and watch them be a total train wreck? And then, 8 months later, they're a total stud and they're going to the E5 board or whatever. Like, I mean, that's good stuff. Well, that's literally for me, that's this business. And so the more senior types, like I do not want a guy that only has disability because that guy is going to have financial problems. I'll tell that dude, you go get you a W-2 job. You go get your feet on the ground. You have your disability. You get your W-2 job where you're making your 4 to 5, $6,000 on top of your retirement or your disability. Then you're settled, and then you can do this, and you can do it part time to full time. That's the transition that I tell people. I will not take you on if you got disability only. You're going to be starving, and it's going to change the total way that you do business. Like, you call me, you ask me a question, I'm going to give you the answer, whether you like it or not, with no concern of your emotions, right? Because you called and you asked me a question. And that's not from a position of like being a dick. It's because I want to be very blunt. I don't do sales. People are like, oh yeah, but this is sales. I'm like, no, I do not do sales. I'm not selling you shit. I'm giving you advice. It's up to you whether you choose to use it or not. And I think because of that, veterans tradition. Did you like a weak leader that played patty cake and kind of like passive aggressive? I kind of need you to, can you just, I walked in the bathroom. It seems a little dirty. Like, if I could just get a couple people, nah, hey, check it out. You three, go clean the freaking bathroom. It looks like crap. Done. Right. So it's not like I'm not trying to be passionate. Obviously, I can turn it on whenever I need to. Like, hey, look,
Sure.
because this all comes from love. It's just tough love. Right. I mean, if you watch my social media stuff, it's not like I'm like, please call me. I need to do a loan. The horses are starving. I mean, that would go so well.
It might, yeah.
Little Sarah McLaughlin. And, wait. That's my next video. I'm doing that shit.
Right?
That's
Yeah.
gonna go so well. Big old horse face, fly on its face. Like, anyways,
Right?
yeah. No. Honestly, it's been fun, and I love it because now I grab a guy like you, transitioned to military, lost in the sauce, already sees it, feels it. I do tell him, hey man, get your license. Let's learn this. We'll turn that into a CSP, in-house CSP. You can learn the business instead of like go and do some stuff you're not going to do ever again. It's a waste of like you can get you going. So by the time that you get close to your retirement date, you're already doing business. And then when Uncle Sugar's paycheck shuts off and you're waiting in that chaos whenever you're like, when's my retirement going to kick in? Oh, my disability. I don't know. Like you're probably already earning. You're probably already doing 1 to 3 loans a month. Man, by that time, shoot, you doing just fine. Right. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
the whole point. And then I put you back into a formation with a bunch of men, women, doesn't matter. I say dudes generically because predominantly I was in all male units. So please calm down. It's okay. Uh, but um, then they're back in, and now it's that locker room, talk. You're just chopping it up, talking smack to each other. But now we have a combined purpose. Like I can teach you something. You're like, oh man, because this is the thing. This is what I tell people. Every time you learn something in this business, and you're like, oh, write it down. That's content.
Yeah, true.
If you just had that moment, that's how many people need that. One of the big like this one kills. You know what this kills? Sergeant majors and first sergeants. You ready for it? The 12-month rule. All right. If you need to relocate and buy a house and you don't have 12 months after the closing date of retention left, you can't use your military income. So if you decide you're going to try to relocate your family in your last 6 months and your wife doesn't work and have income, technically can't use your income. If it says NDEF, okay, there's some gray area, right? But I mean, that right there, if you're a soldier and you have an ETS date and you don't have 12 months, you have no income. That should scare the shit out of all these people, right? Like that one's real. So I love to teach. I mean, I can blow minds with numbers because I just like, but, and I'm like, look, I'm going to say a bunch of numbers. You don't got to retain any of it. I got you just like, hey, what was you saying? And I'll tell you again. But I'm going to tell you because I want you to hear it. So,
So if you had that veteran that was looking at transitioning, they're 24 months out, 18 months out, thinking about going into real estate, whether it's mortgage or elsewhere, given so much of your business through social media, would you start there as you're doing that transition, start building that social media presence, even pre-license and at least start connecting? Or how'd you start building that? Because that's honestly, it's how I found you was through social media. I think it was TikTok is I was like, this guy's kind of cool. I like the video. You didn't sell me anything. You're just telling me how it was. Cool.
yeah,
This guy would be a great guest.
I will tell you exactly how I would do it. I would get my license and I would start establishing VA home loan classes within your formation, within your company, within your battalion, and so forth, and kind of go out. And then you become like, here's the thing. If you just got your license, do you have any business doing a VA loan class? Absolutely not. But you probably have a mentor that you're going to associate with that can help do that. And so for me, like I have a guy, he's an E8, retiring in the next year, got his license, and we're going to do just exactly that, you know? Uh, and just because I am like, look, man, I don't need you to start talking about numbers because if you say something wrong and you box us in, like, you could sink us, right? So what is it? Once you pee in the water, it's pee water, right? So you're like, that makes total sense.
It makes
So
perfect sense. Yeah.
yeah, you're like, I'm thirsty. You're in the bathtub. You're like, ah. So I think that's a big part because the thing is that you don't want to fake the funk. And I see too many guys from the military. How many buddies you've had do this? Then they get out of the military and all of a sudden they're like, I'm a financial planner. I want all the money that you've saved your entire military career, and I'm brand new. But now I'm all over your social media, and I'm just blowing you up and DMing and everything. Like, dude, I know what you're doing, and no, you can't have any of my money because you just started. You have no idea what you're doing. Same concept. You're not going to, have a surgery on my back, and I sure as hell ain't going to get the $42 I saved in my career.
No, I mean, I think we see that often because on the other side of it is that especially when you've kind of grown up in some of these smaller units or if you're a smaller career field, you know everybody, you know their dirty
That's
laundry. You
right.
probably were you're probably a young guy with them or gal with them, and you saw all the stupid decisions they made and all the stories that go and why they got the nickname they got, so
Right.
the
That's right.
transition I could see could be interesting. I'll say now this many out, I think I'm 15 or 16 years out. Some of that goes away. That's not there. But yeah, that early transition I could see being rough. But again, I can see where you're saying find that partner, find that mentorship. Do you think as you're building out your team with, military veterans, is there something specific that you're outside of just the retirement and disability? Is there something specific you're looking for, something that just stands out that this guy or gal is just gonna kick ass and they're gonna go out there and do it?
Oh no, for sure. Like, here's the deal. One, if you're building a team, n- I mean, do you want a bunch of A rods or do you want some randos? Right. So, like, a full requirement is like, Will, you're going to join my team. Like, cool. Do you have any problem being on social media? Because if the business trajectory, business plan that I can show you is this, and you're uncomfortable, well, maybe you're a really organized person. Maybe you're a backside person. Okay. What's your attention to detail? How you doing? Like, I wouldn't necessarily say you can't do it, but like as I'm building things out, I want somebody to be able to be comfortable with public speaking. There's no script on this. We're going live, right? Like if you can't just do that in public and you're not comfortable about it, um, maybe not the best fit. At least but I have no issues building a team, and you have some people that will become great white sharks. And then there's going to be those little fish that stuck on the bottom that just hang out and just eat some. I guess the half foot that comes out of the great white sharks that he was able to, that's what they're nibbling. I don't know. The little feeder sheets. Like, you can do both, but like what you can't do is bring somebody in that we've all picked, like, you have to be able to scan somebody and be like, like, look, and I don't automatically just go to like, maybe you should be a loan officer. Like, I won't bring that up. That I don't think you have a chance in hell of it being any good about it. I'm not going to waste a bunch of time trying to train somebody that's not either A, going to do the work, or B, is super uncomfortable with it. Do you know how hard it is to have a conversation with somebody about their finances? Well, how much money do you have in savings? Well, how's that
Yeah.
going on? What do you think your credit is? Collectively, let's talk about your minimum card payments. Like, super uncomfortable. Um, yeah. So I would say, look, if you have zero social media presence, you don't talk to many people, and you're uncomfortable to walk into a VFW and introduce yourself, maybe this is not for you. And that's okay. It doesn't mean everybody's journey is different. You just got to find out your path, because you're probably going to be super badass in something. You just got to figure it out.
I think and that's sometimes the struggle, I think, for a lot of veterans is they like the freedom or they like, aspects of real estate or they watch way too much HGTV. I don't know. There's something in there that, that
Yeah.
sounds like it'd be awesome until you get in there and you actually realize the job. And I tend to be more introverted. I know that's who I naturally am, and that's one of the things that I think I've struggled with my entire career was going out there. I can present and do all that if I've studied, no problem there. You wanna go make a small talk with somebody? Murderous, hate it, absolutely, but I've realized as I'm building my team out, I'm the nerd behind the scenes. I can coach and mentor these folks, they're the ones that love talking to people, and we found success. My counterpart,
Hmm.
he can go out there and sell, ice to an Eskimo and, he can sell anything and everything that he wants, but the moment it jumps into, "Hey, let's get real deep into the diligence," he's like, "Man, that doesn't sound like fun." I'm like, "That sounds like a great time. Imma stay up till 2 in the morning, working on getting this contract language right or getting this underwriting correct." So I would agree there is finding those skill sets that you do well at, and
Hmm.
then building a team, whether it's a true team or it's people you partner with, that can offset and build that. It's no different than the service. when, I can tell you when I was in the service, there were certain, I was an Apache avionics weapon systems tech. We had guys that were great on avionics, but they were weak on the weapon systems. So you'd put them out there with somebody when those systems integrated. You got two of the good guys that were in those different systems that really understood sighting versus weapons and integrated those folks together because they played on both their strengths. It's no different. It's just a different part of the industry or different industry that you're doing.
No, it's one of my favorite things. Just to people in the industry, and they get a veteran, they don't understand. This dude has gone through some shit, right? It has, carried a ton of stress, made real world life changing decisions, um, can strategically look at things, think of the first, second, and third order of effect on a decision, and are, like total ninjas, right? And then you bring them into a business, and then they're like, you just go sit over there and just listen. And like, nah, like that's where I do my business completely wrong or completely different. And I'll say this all the time. I'm an industry disruptor because like with my team, like what I want them to have is $50 million support on day one. And you're like, what? I don't understand. Because, you know, here's the secret sauce. You ready? A veteran's strength and worth to the business is his network that already know, like, and trust him. If you empower that person to support that network, their business will go crazy. And like, and most people won't do that because they don't know those people. They don't give that person the trust. That comes with. But here's the thing: most of the people that are coming on my team, I've served with for 15 or 20 years. Like, one of my best friends, I met on the plane going to basic training. He got into the business because of me. You know what I mean? Like, not the train, the freaking plane. Like literally, he sat in right over here. Like, we ended up at baggage claim together at Fort Benning in Columbus, and then sat next to each other on the bus. Still one of my best friends. It's crazy. So uh, because I go with what you know. Like my circle is as tight as my fist. It's hard to get into it. Once you get in, it's hard to get out. I'll be blunt. Like it's blood in, blood out. Like that's it. Uh, but once you're in, like man, I'm all in. Right. So, and all I want is people to success. And if I have the ability, and that's kind of how I feel now, is like I have the ability to change some people's lives. If you're can just make it not about money and not about sales and just be a good human being and coach, teach, and mentor. That's it. That's the game. If you take that approach to anything, and that's why having a retirement and disability to me, it's not necessarily a disqualifier, but it sure makes things a whole lot easier because you figure with retirement and disability to their standard state of like income, that delta is not it's not very much. You could do that at McDonald's if you wanted to. And if you like McDonald's, man, go make the most badass French fries in the world. I don't care. But that should alleviate some stress. And that's kind of where if you planned your transition and do your lead time on the front side, by the time that you're out, you're already cooking. You've already got the basics down. And that's it. Because I guess in the end, you're not doing sales.
I think that's in hindsight, one of the things I wish I would have done differently. And for me, as I was getting ready to transition, I was stop lost. Wasn't for sure what I was going to do. Of course,
Yep.
I'm an
That happened
E5
to a lot of
promotable.
people.
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
an E5 promotable, trying to go to flight school, trying to do all sorts of things, realized that medically I couldn't do it. So my whole goal of what I want to do in the military is all of a sudden gone. I can't go fly helicopters, which is all I wanted to do. Now I'm stuck. What am I doing? Sitting here on stop loss, trying to see if I can get another assignment, see if I can do something cool, see if maybe I transition to something a little different, or even try to get an OCS slot, something. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, you're 5 months out, you're sitting in the middle of Iraq. What do you do? Well, hell, I don't know. I had no idea. Well, I guess I'm gonna give this college thing a try. And I remember Sergeant Major, remember he pissed me off to this day, still just rattles my cage. But he's like, "What? You hadn't got accepted yet? You're gonna be a loser. You're gonna be back in a few years, and you're gonna lose your stripe. You'll come back as a specialist. You want to do all that shit again?" I was like, screw you. Like, it was just more like fire in my belly to come back. And like, I remember as I graduated, I'm like, haha, sorry, Major, you were wrong. And, he's now passed. But, I can imagine, at the time, he didn't know me from Adam, but yet he kind of put that fire in and kept working through that. But in hindsight, I had no idea. I didn't play any of this out. I was just kind of going with the flow. And I think that's where so many veterans find themselves in trouble is, oh, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. Whether you're a 3-year enlistment or you're a 30-year, career, I don't know what I want to be when I get out. And that planning, we always think the military is going to be there. We never take that advice to start doing things to prep for when we get out.
And it's awful because, I'll tell you, I was institutionalized as hell. Do you know what I mean? I I stayed in for 27. I took seven and
Yeah.
a half more years because I was like, yeah, but what this is what I love to say this to people. I'm like, look, first of all, the skills you learned in the military can't be replicated on the outside. The stress that you've been under, the decisions you've had to make, like all of those things, people will try to simulate that, but they can't. I went through stress training at H&R Block. Oh, please go shut your face. Right? Like, well, they yelled at us and we did a faith fall or whatever they call. I'm
Trust
like,
fall.
come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trust falls, exactly. So for me, I'm like, look, have the confidence because the thing is that with most veterans, and it's not all, but most veterans, if they're worth their salt, if I can tell you, hey, I need this done, and you're gonna go and you're gonna do it to the best of your ability, and it's gonna be done in, a pretty quick time, that dude is gonna crush it because the workforce is not ready for a person that won't stop until it's done. And that's the power. And so like that's kind of where I'm like, if most people are 9 to 5, past 5 o'clock, they're like, "Are you crazy? Like, I would never answer my phone after 5 o'clock. You're crazy." Like, shit. Like staying up to 1 o'clock to talk to some kid in Korea or something like that. You know what I mean? Just because, like, uh, it's a superhuman, like strength that is, can be totally exploited. Be aware of that as well. Like, because, work feeds your compulsive need to feel. If you're used to being at the red line and in life your entire time, and all of a sudden you're down here at like 10% effort, like you're going to freak out. And that's where honestly, most people, I think, I start to just self implode because life is too easy. How many people have you seen like get out and they just start nuking their own personal life because there's just no chaos. And they're like thinking, I'm like, dude, it's totally you. You're just being a total asshole because you're like, I don't understand. Like, I would go out to the horse farm and punish myself. Like the hottest, most grueling day in the world. And I would go out to the horse farm where my daughter was volunteering at and riding. And I would, and it's funny. Like I tell the story about it's the most, it's this water hose totally changed my life, which is dumb. But, um, her and these other kids were volunteering and they were reeling in this water hose and it got all chewed up, so like got on the outside of the spool and it got all messed up. And I'm in my flip flops and I'm like, I have no interest in horses. Like my back is killing me, my knees hurt. And I'm in flip flops and I see this hose and I'm like, ugh. So I jump out of the truck and I run over to it and I roll it out. I'm like, move, and I like roll it out, I'm like make it all nice and tight. And like, there you go. But I look down and my feet are covered in mud because I'm in flip
Yeah.
flops. So the next time I go, I wear different shoes, and then slowly it evolves to now I'm like, oh shit, that over there looks messed up. Let me just go over there and fix that. And then I just start doing self punishment. Like if you ever seen a horse stall with those heavy rubber matting that's
Oh, yeah.
underneath like the chips, I did 10 stalls in one day, in the peak of the day with 2 10-year-olds. Awful.
Yeah.
I
I can
mean,
imagine.
smelling like and it's just demolished and I would just roll it up, fight it up on my shoulder and would spray them off like anyways. And that started the eventual journey because then I ended up feeding one time and had this crazy interaction with the horse. And 2 months later, we started a program. I've been doing it ever since.
So how I think you hit on something that I think a lot of veterans struggle with is the going to the red line. And I remember there was an episode on Sean Ryan's podcast not long ago, an operator who was basically coming back and saying, "Look, we've been the problem we have transitioning to the civilian world is that we're not at the red line. We don't know what to do." And that's why we find all these 1,000 other things to do and go from there. How do you or how does a veteran that is used to being at that speed slowly slow down off of that and find that balance of I don't have to be on call 24/7. I can enjoy life a little bit. I can slow down, still keep the work ethic that's going to make you stand out. But how do you find that balance between to the red line versus, a good solid cruising speed and not burning yourself completely out?
I mean, I wish I could say that I found it. Yeah,
Maybe I was
you
asking
talk
more for
like
myself too.
I'm like, I'm just sitting here like, are you gonna tell me? Like, no, the first thing is understanding that not everything is a no fail mission, right? Like that's
Yes.
hard. That's hard to comprehend. You don't, and here's the other one, and I love this, right? When you get out of the military and you get your first job, you're not getting your next 20-year job. Like in the civilian sector, you could pivot 15 times. Nobody gives a shit, right? You can go try something. You want to go work at McDonald's, go do that thing for a couple months. Just, you know what? I did. And I made badass French fries. And then you can go do something else. It doesn't matter, right? Because you're not working on the outside, you're not working towards a military retirement. People stick, you get to the 10-year hump in the military, you might as well do another 10 years. You got a retirement, right? But that's not on the outside. Most things are like save money, 401k, whatever. So and that's probably the hardest thing. Like it's okay. Like you want to get your mortgage license, you want to get your real estate license, you want to go work at Gulfstream, you want to go work at, wherever and do it. Who cares? Like you'll get in. Like, and if it sucks, you pivot. Like it's okay. Like that right there, super hard for anybody to comprehend because I think so many people put so much unnecessary stress on what job they're going to get when they get out. Like they have to have this perfect plan. No, you don't, dude. You don't. You probably need to make $4,000 a month. Like you can make that most places. You're overly qualified to make that. And then you get on up, like depending on your qualifications and leadership and whatever else, man, you can get on up, but like doesn't have to be your forever house. And like if you're listening to this, freaking write that down because that's real. It's okay. Hell, I've been in like I did mortgages, but I've bounced around in the business because I've been trying to find the exact spot I need to be to put myself in like this perfect situation to support nationwide and build a VA mortgage war fighting killing machine. And I feel like I'm finally there. And now I feel like, okay, it's go time, right? But guess what? My road here, I got my ass kicked, dude. I'm resilient. I'm dumb. I'll just keep pushing. I'll just keep ramming my head to the wall. I'm going through this wall, right?
Yeah.
Like that's it. I'm going to bash my forehead, but I'm going through the wall. And that reality is there's a door literally 2 feet to the right if you just go that way. Changing your thinking that way and having to be on this specific path. What do they say? There's your plan and there's life's plan. Up and out.
I I think you're exactly on it, and I just had I mean, just a couple months ago, I had the same conversation. Sergeant major, in the Army, did his 24 years, something like that, got out, got his first job in real estate brokerage, loving what he was doing, and then got an opportunity. He's like, "I can't leave them even though it's a great opportunity." I was like, "Why can't you leave the brokerage you're at?" He's like,
Yeah.
"Well, why can't I? They've been good to me." And I was like, "And?" Like, I'm not saying don't have
Yeah.
loyalty, like, don't burn the bridge, But if you're doing something better for you and your family, if they don't respect that, then they weren't the group that you wanted. And sure enough, he's now moved over and he's doing great. He's giving him a different level of support. He's seeing different parts of the industry. And while he was specialized in one area, he's now getting his eyes open to other things. He's like, dude, I love this area. Why didn't I start over here? I would have been so much happier in everything he was doing. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with it. You didn't burn the bridge. Everybody left amicably, but you found what you were really good at. Nobody who's worthwhile is gonna be mad that you found what you're good at. That's great.
Yeah. It's the journey, right? The journey. Like, uh, show me a shiny diamond that they didn't get the, its shit pounded in forever. Like, how much pressure? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So, and I like to tell people that, like, it's okay, right? The hard part is acknowledging whenever you're like, oh, like you said, I left a company like because the opportunity that I had, and I mean, I didn't like it, but I couldn't pass it up, you know, and everybody should feel that way because the thing is that it goes back to that like you don't want to be the blue falcon, right? You don't want to quit on your team, but I mean the reality is in the civilian sector, they're not your team. It's a group of people. You might be pointed somewhat in the right direction, but make no mistake, somebody's stepping on your neck to get over you if they can. And and I'm not saying that that's wrong. That's how the business is
The
made
world
up.
works.
But as long as you understand that, just take things less personally, you know?
So, as we kinda move towards wrapping up, looking at kinda what you've done through the service, making that transition, into mortgage and now, in the role that you're in now, if there was something you could go back and tell the Danny, 10 years ago, as you're getting ready to retire that you would do differently, what would that advice be?
I don't know that I would do anything differently ish, because in every choke point of my transition, I learned something. Sometimes it was I learned I don't want to do that. Sometimes like, oh, because in the end, you're swimming out in the world. Like for the first time, it's like being at the beach and there's like that floater line that you don't go past. With all the little the and now you're going out to the deep dark because it's all unknown. I would say it took me a long time to recognize whenever I was actually struggling. I had no plan on personal care, right? And I'll be honest, I went into a horrific funk. You would never know it if you knew me, right? I was happy go lucky with my friends because whenever you get with your friends, that OU pops out immediately. And then you go away and then you're this, I'm the heavyweight champion of the world, a resting bitch face, right? Because I don't want you to come up and talk to me because you are not invited, right? Like it's my choice. And that sucks. Do you know what I mean? But that's where I got mentally. And being a veteran, especially whenever you're out and you're going and, like it was difficult and you're going back and forth to war because you see society going to like little baseball games and having picnics and shit like that. And you're packing your bag to get ready to go. They have no idea what you're going to go do. And you're going to come back in a couple of months and they have no idea. You can't talk to them about it. You start to resent the predominance of society because there is a freaking war going on. I'm losing some friends to do this. And you didn't. Hang on, we're still in Afghanistan, you know? Um, but I will tell you this. One, you have friends that got out before you. Check in on them, get the answers to the test. All right. Two, have some version of a plan. If you wherever you're at, there's some version of like a program or something. And then I'm not telling you need to go in and say, like I'm really messed up and I just really don't know what to do. Like, no, you don't do that. You go there to help other people, right? Because I'll tell you, I started a horse program because I didn't want to do that exactly, right? But if I made it about other people, I will passively I will get it because it's hard for me. It was hard. the predominance of my military career, I could have had a broken arm. I broke my face one time, and the only reason I knew that is like because we were playing football. I took an elbow right in my eye, and it was cold. It was up in Fort. It was, and I shot a snot rocket out. My eye filled up with air. I broke my orbital, and all I did was like this and kept playing. And I went to the medic after that. They're like, "Dude, you need to go check out the medic." I'm like, "Why?" They're like, "I go show him that thing." And I went out down. And I'm like, "Hey, is this bad?" And I'm like, and my eye goes and fills up with air. They're like, "Oh my god," And so next thing you know, I'm getting a CAT scan. But uh, you can't blow your nose for 3 months or whatever it was. So you know, the key part is this, and I know I'm rambling a little bit. You have to have some version of acknowledgement, and you don't have to be at the red line breaking point of life, and like the wheels are getting ready to come off of all the thing before you're like, oh, you know what, I probably need help. And here's another one. If you've seen some shit, military one source, call them, get some counseling, freaking talk to somebody. Like I was in a bunch of shootouts, and we had to talk to behavioral health and make sure you're still good in the cockpit and whatnot. And man, I talked to this lady. I will no shit. I'll say I talked to this lady 4 years, 4 years before I talked about myself. Like, how crazy is that? Like, what did you talk about? Shoes? Like, no, it was just like there was always something else, right? But um, and you don't have to vomit on your loved one either, because like they can't do anything with it. And I think a lot of us, we hold it up, they ask, and then you tell them, and they can't comprehend it, they can't fix it, and it creates this whole, because like, what are you give me a problem, I want to fix it, right? Well, that's not what I want you to do. I want you to just listen. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, you want me to just listen here and just you tell me in the like that. You ever see that one video? It's not about the nail. You ever see that one? Look that up. Write that down. You need to watch it. You should post the shit out of that thing. It's hilarious. It's literally every man's problem. Because this girl's like sitting there on the couch and there's a couple and she's kind. I just don't know what it is. Like it's just my head, and all this. And he's like, oh, and then it slowly pans and she's literally got a nail in her forehead. And she's complaining about this pain in her forehead. And he's like, well, anyways, uh, you have a nail in your forehead, folks. Acknowledge that. And you need to come up with a plan, because here's the deal. When you get on a plane, they tell you to put your mask on first. You got to put your mask on, because if you wait too long, what are they like when you're rucking? You remember going on a long ass ruck and they tell you if you're thirsty, you're way behind, you're going down, right? So that's why you drink every 10 minutes. You just keep it going. It's the same thing out here. And then guess what? Nobody's going to tell you to put your mask on. So do it yourself before you get out there. And then all of a sudden that darkness starts to hit, because when it hits, do you know how many friends I've lost because they didn't do that? And I mean, I lost one of my best friends to drinking. And look, I will tell you, I'm 140, right? High, extreme highs, extreme lows. And I try to keep it right here. But I kind of was like, you're probably going to struggle pretty bad. And I don't want to go to the drinking, and I don't want to, get violent. And I remember just feeling so angry at everything. But it was completely inappropriate. So the only thing that I could do is shut my face off. Doof, emergency shutdown. That's what I did. And I don't know why I'm mad. Like I just wake up with this extreme bite and I just want to like that's where I was. And I was like, man, I got to do something, because I don't understand. And it freaks me out like it did. I was just like, I don't know. But I'm just right on the edge of like roid rage, like hurt people stuff. And, you know, horses. That was my thing. And now life, the business, all of it, it's all veteran care. And you would not believe how many guys come on and they're like, man, you were not kidding. I love this. So stuff though.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for sharing and being as open you were there towards the end. I mean, it's great stuff, and I think especially us as leaders, in this space, being able to share these things and letting those that are kind of coming up behind us understand that these are real struggles, that you're not at it alone, I think is extremely important. If somebody had a question for you, if somebody wanted to join your team or just want to understand the VA mortgage side even better, what's the best way for them to connect with you or to follow you?
Yeah, so I mean, if you just kind of search me, I'm pretty much on. I do Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. I have a bullshit YouTube channel. I'm gonna work on it this year. Like I think I have 57 followers. Woo,
I think
woo.
I think you're
Um,
27 higher than me, so you're good.
no, here's the problem. If I do long form, I don't want to edit. So, but if you look up Daniel Archer VA Mortgage Guy on Instagram, Danny Archer on Facebook, TikTok, I think it's Daniel Archer VA Mortgage Guy. You can search me on LinkedIn. Like seriously, if you're transitioning and you want to at least talk about a plan, man, seriously, shoot me a connect. Say, hey, I saw you on this podcast. Like, I'd love to have a conversation. Let's do it. Like, it doesn't have to be about you getting into the mortgage business. Um, and hell, you can always shoot me an email. It's darcher@loandepot.com.
Well, Danny, thank you so much for this, and for those of you guys that do have any questions, obviously Danny's willing to connect with you, so feel free to take advantage of that. Again, Danny, thank you so much for your time on this one, and we look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
Sure. I appreciate it. Well, it was great talking to you today. It was a good time. And thanks for listening, folks.